So I am about to start Ash Princess. Ash Princess is the April book of the Whimsify, and I am stoked about this. I'm actually buddy reading this with Victoria, and I cannot wait to dive into this. This is absolutely not only my genre, but it seems like this might have my favorite tropes of all time. So this could be really it. So on the back it just says, tense and imaginative. Ash Princess is a smart feminist twist on a traditional tale of a fallen heroine, with plenty of court intrigue, check, love, and lies, check, to sweeten the deal. Good luck putting this one down. So I'm not that much for like the romance stuff, but if the court intrigue and the like lies and stuff are the major part in this, this could be a really good one. So I don't know much more about it. It just says on the back here, princess, prisoner, orphan, rebel. And this seems to be like the right kind of gist for me. I like all these like court stuff. I like when this underdog gets to a court, like a slave, a poor girl or whatever, and she discovers that she has like powers or just something, and she then becomes badass. I love that. I'm a little bit hesitant about the feminist part, because feminist part can get really aggressive feminist. I hate that. I'm all for equality. I'm not for putting women above men, and a lot of feminists make that mistake of saying, well, aren't you for equality? But in reality, they are actually promoting to put women above men, and I'm not for that. So what does it say? Theodosia, oh my gosh, that name is a mouthful, was 6 when her country was invaded and her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered before her eyes. On that day, the Kaiser took Theodosia's family, her land, and her name. Theo, I can deal with Theo, was crowned Ash Princess, a title of shame to wear in her new life as a prisoner. For 10 years, Theo has been captive in her own palace. She's endured the relentless abuse and ridicule of the Kaiser and his court. She is powerless, surviving in her new world only by burying the girl she was deep inside. Then one night the Kaiser forces her to do the unthinkable. With blood on her hands and all hope of reclaiming her throne lost, she realizes that surviving is no longer enough. But she does have a weapon. Her mind is sharper than any sword. And power isn't always won on the battlefield. For 10 years, the Ash Princess has seen her land pillaged and her people enslaved. That all ends here. Ooh, 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 ooh. It tickles me in the right spot. Ooh, we have a map. We officially have a map, which usually when there's a map, I like the book a lot better already. If a book requires a map, that means oftentimes that they have crafted an amazing kingdom that I'm falling in love with. So, oh, and there's a second map. So I guess here we have the country, and then the second map is an island, I guess. Yeah, it's down here. Like this little thing is Astria. And we have a really short prologue, and then we dive in. So the first sentence is, the last person who called me by my true name was my mother, with her dying breath. Come on, let's dive in. So I'm on page 28. So this is like really my like very first thoughts. Within the first like 10-15 pages, I had quite a hard time getting into it, but that is very normal for me. I think that this is set up really, really well though. So again, page 28, 2 chapters in. It is brutal, it feels real, it feels like the right kind of pressure, and the only question that I have is really why the Kaiser would let her live, why she's alive. So that's pretty much the setup, is that the Kaiser took over the country and he's killing all those rebels, and he killed the queen, but he leaves a royal offspring alive, and I just feel like that's weird. It does get explained in the second chapter, but I still feel like the explanation is a little bit weak, to be honest. But I do have to say, the second chapter, I am now fully into the book. I'm completely drawn in, and this second chapter already was heartbreaking. So I feel like the author did a really good job in, through this heartbreaking moment, making me start to really care for the main character. And that is something that not a lot of people can actually do, because I usually need some time to get into it. So let's see where this goes. But I am having high hopes that this might be a good one. So another update. I have a lot to talk about this book, it seems. I am really hoping for really good character development here. So far, Theo is this weak girl who wants to be saved by a guy, by a father or rebel or whatever. So I'm really interested in seeing how this develops from being a weak girl who wants to be saved into this fighting, strong woman we all know she's going to become, because, well, that's kind of what the book is set out to be. So I'm really interested if the character development is done well, because to me so far, well, I'm really hooked now, but it really needs to be realistic how she transforms into being this strong character now. So yeah, let's see where that goes. Damn it, I was so impressed with this book so far. It's dark and hopeful and dark again, and I am living for it. And then this sentence, like, why? I let out a breath I didn't realize I've been holding. Come on! I'm having trouble taking a book seriously with that sentence in it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's one of those sentences. It's just like, no. No, but in all seriousness, so far the book, I'm on page 81 and I'm like captivated. I'm like I've been like messing with my hair the whole time because I was like, oh my gosh, no way. And not because like things happen that I don't expect. It's just that it's so dark but realistic at the same time. And I'm loving the character development at this point, because we don't have a, oh, flip the switch and oh, I'm this heroine, whatever. She has been struggling with her process, and it felt like a believable development to me so far. So I'm very impressed with everything except that one sentence. So I'm on page 114, and I have to say, I love how manipulating and conniving and cunning our heroine is turning out to be. I also love that there's still like some doubts every now and then. She doesn't go from full-on damsel in distress to badass. There are still doubts. There are still hints of like the 10 years that she lived as a victim, pretty much. She was a victim and now she's trying not to be. But I love how her development turns her into a stronger person, into the person who is manipulating, who's holding like everything in her hand. And I love that the relationship, like the first boy-girl relationship that we have in this book, is a manipulating one. I would really hope that this doesn't turn into a real romance. We all know it most likely will, because I mean, this is YA and this is like, we know it's gonna happen, right? But it would be so awesome if we would stick to that, and just stick to that and not go into like the over feminist version. I feel like this middle ground between a strong female character falling for a guy helplessly and being all like damsel in distress again, and a girl just ruling over guys and being in charge of them and being very feminist and aggressive feminist about it. I feel like we rarely hit the middle ground where we have a strong woman who learns to be strong and who uses men to get her goal, but not at any cost, and not without feelings, and not without feeling like she is better than any man. So yeah, I do appreciate it so far. I'm very excited to see if this theme continues, or if we are diving back into the tropes. And well, so I guess there's some stuff happening, and I am loving this more and more. So I really do like how they infiltrate, how in the chapter called Waltz, so the chapters don't have numbers, which is kind of irritating, as I am buddy reading it, and like we have to say like, oh, I'm now on the chapter Waltz, and you don't know, oh, how far is that like ahead and stuff. But as we have like a reading schedule, it works out quite fine. But in the chapter Waltz, I do like how they are discussing something, and it's not like this morally heroic actions that we see a lot in YA, where the decisions that the heroes have to make are always like so morally white, and ooh, we have to help everybody. And here these decisions are more of a struggle. And then later on we're meeting in the chapter Kaiserin, we're meeting the Kaiserin, which is awesome. I totally did not expect this character to come in like this. But at this point, I do really like how all the relationships are kind of developing into each other. And yeah, I've been reading a few chapters without updating. So after the chapter Kaiserin, and me totally being in love with all the characters and how they are like intertwining with each other, we have some developments with her friends, like with her childhood friend Blaise, and with her friend in the castle, who was the only person who was nice to her. I do like how her personal development changes the relationship with the friend she had in the castle, with Cress. And I do think that Cress's reactions to what is going on, I think it's in Gems, are not perfect, but therefore real, which I totally appreciate. And then we have her childhood friend, where we are starting to get into a love triangle. Please don't tell me you did not expect this from the beginning. We all knew there's going to be a love triangle, and we all knew who the characters are going to be once they were introduced. That's just how YA is, I guess. But I have to say, I'm not hating it at all. The author is so good at writing it, not like overly poetic, I think my buddy reader called it. It's simple, descriptive, to the point, but it's not but it's beautiful, and it's not overly poetic so that it takes me out from reading. That's like half of what my buddy reader said and half of what I'm saying. But I really commend her for writing this relationship in a way that I don't hate it. There's not like this insta love. There's character struggling going on, and there's like changes going on, and there's like, I mean, yes, we are talking about like a teenage girl, and teenage girls do act more insta-love type of thing, or like swooning type of thing, than more experienced women might. So I don't think this insta-love, one-sided at least, is too far from reality in like teenagers. But here it's done perfectly, because it's not insta-love, it's building, and she's still swooning a lot quicker than others, might be that have more experience, but it feels real. And I can't hate this. I mean, I'm at chapter Aminet right now. I'm on page 210. The last few pages of the chapter, I started skipping some of the bits and pieces in the relationship because it's like, yeah, I don't need to read all these, like, this interaction. But I don't hate this development. I'm surprised. I did not know it's going to be that dark feeling. And I just love how through the last couple of chapters, we're being pulled between fun character dialogues back into like this cruel world. And if you're reading this, I check when you get to page 200, and there the prince is talking about something that he did in the past that gave his boat the name, and what he made, like what he did after his father found out. I love how the author is dealing with this, how she's trying to show a non-perfect male character who seems to be one of the nicest people in this book, which seems weird because he's like from this evil family, kind of. Well, it's not an evil family, but he's supposed to be the enemy. And he's like one of the nicest people, and you're like, yeah, that can be right. And the character shows he's not perfect. He's living with the hand that he's been dealt, but her reaction to it, I love it. It's like, she's like, yeah, you haven't seen shit. I'm starting to swoon over this book before I have finished it. Let's see how this plays out. It's really late and I'm like about to hit the bed, but I do have to film this update real quick. So I love, like, on the last couple of pages, I'm on page 224 now. On the last couple of pages, we see all this like inside battle in our main character, and this is what I feel like is missing from most books, where we have this drastic transformation from a victim type of girl to like the assassin type of heroine, which happens a lot in YA, but this inner battle of like changing your mindset and stuff, that is so well done here, and I am missing that in so many other books. So that is, I love this. Now on like page 223, we have a situation where I'm just starting to wonder, these shadows are supposed to watch everything around Thora, right? How does he on here, like, we have the situation that our main character finds something on her doorstep, like a piece of paper, and one of the shadows is like, oh, that could be from yada yada, but like, why don't they know? Aren't the shadows supposed to be watching everything? Shouldn't they know that stuff? Like, when somebody's dropping a piece of paper on her doorstep, they should know that, right? Like, they should notice. So that's so weird. Yeah, I still want to read up to page 250, and I'm already like half falling asleep, but like, let's go. Oh my gosh, guys, seriously. Page 258. What just happened? I have to deal with what just happened, and I don't know if I need to take a break to just like let it sit, or if I want to continue on. Well, what do you know? I don't know if I talked about this early on one of these files, or if I just wrote this to my buddy, because I'm trying to really avoid spoilers in this video. But I knew it's not safe what they're doing. It's like, it just doesn't make sense how letters would find the right person in these circumstances, and I guess I was right. I'm on page 316 and I'm just wondering, when do the shadows sleep again? Because I believe I remembered correctly that in the beginning of the book it was said that out of the 3 shadows they slept in turns and only like 2 of them had to be there like the whole time. But since the beginning they have always all been there, or we have heard what they're doing. So when are they sleeping? When? Tell me. Just 2 pages later, page 318, and I have to say I love it again. I love how twisted our main character is and her thought process. I believe this, the way this is written, this could be a really, really well done backstory to a villain, to like a becoming of a villain. And because she is the whole time twisted and torn between saving her people and her country and what she has to do for it, and her thoughts linger on morally really great decisions. And she's not this goody good hero, she is dark, and I mean she's living through dark stuff, but her decisions are dark, and she acknowledges good strategic moves that kill thousands of people, and she's asking if she would do the same, and that she tells herself that she would never doom thousands of innocent people to die for her country, but as soon as I think of it, I know it isn't true. And this is what I like. This touches and tingles something deep in my soul that I love, that is missing so much from so many books. This like, this is morally gray and being torn and twisted, and this is what I have wished for so many books, claiming to be morally gray and claiming to be evil people with backstories. This is what it should be like. Oh, this is amazing. And I said this is so villainy. Oh my gosh, the conversation on like 384 and possibly 385. This is a villain's backstory in the making. I love it. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. This is like so filled with like vicious and cruel dialogue, and oh, these 2 bitches, damn, I want more of this. If you have been watching this far and you have read this and you know what I'm talking about, and you know of any other books that have characters, dialogues and stuff like that, please let me know. I want to read them all. So I am so ready to go to bed, but I couldn't before this was done. Oh my gosh, this is such a 5 out of 5 star reading for me. Was it like perfect? By far not, no. But there was so much in it that just screamed out of my soul that this is yes, 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 that this became a 5 out of 5 star. There were a few things where I was like, okay, this doesn't make total sense, and I totally get that the plot isn't that original. So we have this like fallen heir who is being tortured and who's trying to rise to bring her country back to her people. We have some magic in there, we have some allies, we have some enemies, we have a love triangle, and so it's very unoriginal at that point. What makes this so super special, that I love this, is the inner dialogue of our main character. She is so torn and she is so consumed by her wish to be free and to free her people and what she has been taught and what she's been through. And she is like, this is character development that I love so much. We actually see her develop. It's not like there's one thing happening and the next day she did a 180. So she is developing and she's torn and she's like, there's battles inside of her, and she is selfish at times, but she tries to then at other times she puts herself after her people and what she can and cannot do and what she wants to do or not. And she's battling with all her relationships, and it's just, this is done so beautifully. And halfway through I felt like this would be the perfect way to have a villain becoming a villain backstory. This is how it should be done, because we learn how she fosters on her anger, how she is being tortured, and how she develops into a stronger person, but a stronger person who does make ruthless decisions, and who's constantly battling between her empathy, her conscience, and what needs to be done. And that is just done so amazingly. And there's like, oh, that is just so beautiful. And I wish, there's a couple of books that were like advertised as morally gray or advertised as being villainy, and they weren't at all compared to this. This just had so much of these feelings in it. If you're not a person who likes that kind of stuff, I totally understand if this might not be for you, because as I said, the plot isn't the most original. It's just the way it's done. It's the first time I have read it in this beautiful way. If you know more books that have done like this inner battle between what is a good choice and what is not a good choice, about what needs to be done and what would be morally the right thing to do, with characters who aren't goody good shoes, like who only do decide like morally perfect. And if you have like any recommendations for me that in some way compared to this, please let me know. I want to read more, and I have to look into the author, Laura Sebastian. I don't think I have seen anything else from her, so I have to look into her, and I can't wait for the sequel. Oh, that was so good. This is definitely going up on my favorite shelf, which is, you can even see it in the back there. These are the only books that I'm keeping. Okay, right now you can see even more books back there, but this is only like cooking books and travel books, so they don't really count. But up there, these are the only books that I allow myself to keep, and this is going up there.